Eddie Van Halen's gone. Now it's only Alex. So the fact that I have my brother to still do those things, I feel very fortunate that I can do. I can still go out and play with him.
Ghost Cult Magazine welcomes in Igor Cavalera. How are you doing today?
All good, man. All good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. We're so excited. As I said offline, we met many times over the years. I've interviewed Max many times, seen you play in many different projects. Very excited about the Max and Igor upcoming tour. You've been doing these tours for quite a while now, where we get to hear these brilliant old school albums performed. It's got to be a thrill for you. It's a thrill for us as fans, as journalists. It's really exciting to have you guys back again. We're going to talk a lot about Beneath the Remains and Arise, which, again, these are cornerstone albums of the genre. Pretty much everybody knows. But yeah, first and foremost, just of course, it's just an insane time. So I hope you're well, your family, your friends, everybody you work with is in one piece today because, just plague, war, fire, everything is on fire.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's it. There's a lot of things happening in the world. As you mentioned, not only we come from the back of a pandemic that it's still going, but of course things are getting somehow back to some kind of normality. But there is a war happening as we speak, so there is a lot of things, and of course, music is one of those things can keep us in turbulent times.
Right, of course. I am so glad to have music to talk about and artists to talk to. At least for me personally, it's a great distraction from the real life. But of course, saying the same. The more things change, the more they stay the same, as the cliche goes. This is nothing new. You've been in bands talking about this. Max has been talking about this in his music forever. The same old.
Yeah.
Is it 1987? Is it 1997? Is it 2022? But yeah, man, just super excited for this tour. And I know, as I mentioned, you work all the time on a variety of things. How do you get ready for a tour like this, especially for these albums you might not have played in a while, especially perhaps some deep cuts or stuff that's just not in the usual repertoire? How do you prepare for a big tour?
I mean, of course, it is a quite a physical tour. So the drumming on it, it's quite extreme from those two records. So I do have to do a lot of practicing. Luckily, I have a studio here in London that I can come in and do some drumming and try some stuff. And of course, we will be doing a bit of rehearsals for this with the whole band before the tour starts. But it's always good to be prepared for something like this. Of course, those are songs that somehow they are engraved in my brain already. But I do need to, because I'm involved also with so many projects. Sometimes I do need to do a bit of a focusing so I can get all the parts right, so my hard drive doesn't explode.
Right, of course. And I'm sure for some of these things it's muscle memory. Oh, I know how that goes, but I wonder if you have to relearn certain parts. And obviously you play differently than you did 30, 35 years ago. Your drum set, your arrangement of your kit is different than it used to be. Do you have to compensate or overcompensate in some cases?
Yeah, I mean, I do have some notes that I write down, and I've been doing this for many years, which I don't really read music professionally, but I do have some notes that I know where to follow certain things, and those about certain eras where a few songs are very similar to each other. They're variations of the same song in a way. So not to get confused with certain parts of, especially with the tempo changes and things like that. I try to keep a bit of a notepad with things that I can look at it and I know exactly where I am with the track. Because otherwise, of course, we all go into some kind of a brain fart and where you're like, oh shit, what's next? And so I try to keep those notes somehow close to me, even in when I'm playing live. Like I have the set list, but I also have a few things that I write down that help me situate myself in that case, you know.
Of course, of course. And again, like I said, these records are it's kind of unbelievable to me that it's like so like more than 30 years. Chaos AD is going to be 30 years old next year. It just blows my mind. We're all young men, and when we blinked and everything changed. I don't know what happened at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very proud that those records still relevant to a lot of people, including myself. I really enjoy those records, and to play them live, it's such a pleasure because it's, you know, I really enjoy playing music with my brother. I really enjoy the connection that we have, the chemistry that we have when we play live, and to have a chance to do this for me, it's very special. I really appreciated that, you know, like I know there's a lot of brothers out there or not even here, you know, like the Abbott brothers from Pantera, or even like someone like Eddie Van Halen's gone now, it's only Alex. So the fact that I have my brother to still do those things, I feel very fortunate that I can still go out and play with him.
I know he would say the same. I've interviewed Max many times, and he's really loves. This is one of his favorite things in the world to do is to do these tours with you, and whether it's a festival or a boat cruise or a tour, he's super pumped.
Yeah, he's a bit of a James Brown of metal, man. He doesn't stop.
He doesn't stop. I
And
don't know when he sleeps. It's
yeah,
crazy.
I know I mean, and I really understand he's where he comes from, because it is something that you get, you know, like very addicted to it somehow. Touring, it's something that you know, it takes a lot of on your body, on your voice, on your physical part, but also it's quite demanding mentally, and I think he just misses that. So I'm glad that he stayed creative during the pandemic, same way as me, doing different projects, collaborating with people, even if it was remotely. But that all those things are very important to stay sane, you know.
Of course, and you have to keep feeding that creative engine also, so you're ready for the next thing that comes along. So you're open and practiced and ready, and just vibing on whatever it is. And of course, again, this music is so vital. These albums are so important. I was wondering, just out of curiosity, like I said, there's a certain amount of stuff you mentioned you have to do to keep on your toes, but also have you surprised yourself going back to some of these records? This is the era of the band that to me was like very brutal and straight ahead, but also was like KSAD is already like another level up, where you guys added the tribalism and a lot of punk. And Arise and Beneath the Remains, they're so cutting, they're so straightforward, they're so brutal. I know that was kind of the time when all the thrash and heavy extreme bands were just trying to outdo each other, but like you guys were also very young, so I wonder if you surprised yourself with your own playing, like, oh, I don't remember doing that, or how did I do that?
Yeah, I mean, there is those elements. I think, those two records, they still have a strong influence from a lot of like death metal bands that we were totally into it, especially when we talk about recording those records with Scott Burns, someone that we worship a lot of his production with a lot of the death metal bands from Florida. And, we were still very influenced by a lot of that. So yeah, like you said, once it moves into Chaos AD, things become very different. But I believe Beneath the Remains and Arise, they're very connected in that sense. They still have a lot of the old school death metal thing going, mixed, of course, with thrash and hardcore and punk and those things. So yeah, so they're very energetic records. And of course, as a drummer at the time, I was really into all those ideas of a lot of double bass, a lot of like fast, stuff that I was really pushing my limits at the time, which is cool. I think all of that is part of my evolution as a drummer, and to revisit that it's a lot of fun, because I also know exactly where my head was when I was trying to make those records.
Awesome. And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because one of my favorite things you did during the pandemic, or the worst of the pandemic, if we're not fully out of it, was I love the web series you did where you were going through the drums and recalling different things you've written and played and how you played them. I thought that was amazing. It was a great use of obviously your studio space, and just a wonderful thing for you to share, because obviously still you are very much admired and worshipped by a lot of drummers. I still see a lot of Sepultura influence, especially early Sepultura influence, on a lot of modern bands. So I think that series you did was fantastic.
Oh, thanks. It was fun because again, I was never a person that was very into the whole technical side of drumming, and I mean by trying to explain what I do. So the series, it was more about showing my creative process. How do I get to do those things, and what inspired me at the time, what bands, what sounds and things like that. So that was kind of like the main inspiration. Of course, it's not like a master class or anything like that. It's not like a tutorial video on how to play, but it's a bit more of an X-ray of how I did those songs and how I came with those ideas, because I also love drummers who create beats and create parts that become iconic when you listen to them.
Yeah, of course. I don't think a lot of people. I know there are lesson videos and tutorial videos and a lot of cover videos. I was wondering if if you're aware of all the many drum covers, especially now that we have TikTok and other apps where people are just like, check me out playing Sepultura. So I see a lot of
Yeah,
old school stuff. Have you seen some of those?
I do follow a lot of them. I did, people send me certain links and things. It's very cool to see also how different each person plays the same song, like how their interpretation of it. And as a drummer, I find that very, very inspirational, because again, it's some certain things in there, they're not as simple as it seems. So it's cool to see how someone, just by listening to it and they try to play, they come up with something completely different. Like even if they're playing the right thing, it becomes a whole different pattern. And I think that's part of the magic of it.
Awesome. I know one other thing about these old records is I went through and I re-listened to them getting ready to chat with you, and I was thinking about Dead Embryonic Cells, right? That breakdown is so iconic, and was kind of in the period of time before you had like a lot of the breakdowns in thrash or death metal. Like now every band has the breakdown part. China groove, and
Yeah,
everybody punch each other, and Dead Embryonic Cells has that incredible breakdown part. And I know that you and Max, even though it didn't show up until in the songs, really, until later in the songwriting, like Chaos AD, but the hardcore influence, I always feel like thrash metal especially borrowed the breakdown from hardcore for sure, early hardcore.
definitely, man. I mean, for me and Max, hardcore, it is as important as any metal or even any rock band that influenced us from the beginning. If we talk about like even stuff like Bestial Devastation, we were listening to a lot of hardcore bands like Discharge and all those very extreme hardcore bands. And then of course later, a lot of the New York stuff, it was very influential, like stuff like the Cro-Mags, Sick of It All, Agnostic Front, all those guys very pretty much, like helped us paved our own way of making our style of music. But it was very influential. And like you said, a lot of those breakdowns, there were things that especially a lot of death metal bands were not incorporating a lot of that. But for us, it just felt natural that it was necessary to have those kind of parts in the songs to bring some dynamics to it.
Totally true, and get the crowd relaxed, back to moshing, speed up
Yeah,
again, headbang again.
all
So
of
much
that.
fun, so fun. I mean, it was such a fun time of music, and I think of like the Piere albums at the time, all the big four bands, and Justice for All, Seasons in the Abyss. Persistence of Time, Anthrax, Megadeth, Rust in Peace, and Sepultura was right along with them, right there. Overkill, Exodus. That's, to me, the golden age of thrash for me in a lot of ways. Those are my favorite records. I go back to them again and again.
Cool. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, of course, like my vision of the big four, it's probably very different that what they had. For me, it would be a different thing. Because I think the big four, it was also based on who was selling the most, which for me it's not that relevant. For me it could be, like we could be talking like a band like Exodus. They could be for me the big four. The fact that they were not selling as much as someone like Megadeth doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, of course. And Exodus and Overkill and Testament and these other bands are as important
Yeah.
as the popular bands. I think it's
Yeah.
hard to deny the greatness of those popular bands. That's partially why they got popular. There are other reasons too, but
Of course.
yeah, definitely. I would never throw out any of those other bands. I love all those bands. I just think. It's a journalism thing. We talk about the biggest bands in whatever scene. We talk about the big four of death metal now. Death, Obituary, Cannibal Corpse, Morbid Angel, maybe someone else, but that, and none of those. Yeah, it doesn't denote or doesn't degrade anyone else by by
Yeah, of
talking about
course.
the big ones. It's just the ones everybody knows. Just as we start to wind this down, I want to give you back your evening. Of course, congratulations on the Absent and Body record. We just reviewed it. It was phenomenal. What a great project that is. And you have many other things going on, so I didn't know if you wanted to take a second and talk about anything else you're working on or have coming up beside this tour with Mags.
I mean, yeah. I mean, the Absent and Body, it was such a special project because it's been for a few years now. I've been talking to Scott from Neurosis and also from the guys from Amen Ra. Finally, I had a chance before the pandemic hit. I went to Belgium to record with them. And it was like very special to be in the studio again. It wasn't a remote thing. It was something that we were actually in the studio working together on the parts. And I love how it came out. It's a very, of course, dark record. It has a lot of I don't know, like very slow parts that usually I remember. Also, I was telling Max about it, trying to explain to him, and I was saying how some of the stuff, it was so slow that I couldn't remember myself playing. Somehow there's no rush to get to the certain parts. So it was something that was really cool. It was like they really takes time to build this atmosphere and build this whole world. So I'm very proud of the way the record came out. Not only music, but also like the whole thing behind the whole visual identity. It's very strong in the videos. So it's something that it came out exactly as I was expecting. As far as like everyone putting 100% into it.
Awesome. I hope we get another one of those. I know it's very special and it just came out, and I don't know if there's a chance that you can all. It's so hard to get everybody together from different bands, especially all over the world, but it would be wonderful to get some kind of full album performance at some point, like a very special thing. Maybe a special festival like Vakken or Roadburn can put that together and get you guys in there.
Yeah, I mean that it is something that even when we spoke to the other guys in the beginning, it wasn't something that we were expecting to play live. It was more of the ideas putting on the record. But of course, we all open to ideas if it's something that it makes sense. Like you said, if it's a special festival or a special event that we would get together and perform those songs, that would be amazing. But it's not something that it was not the final idea to do this and go out on a tour. It was a little more of an experiment on record.
That makes a lot of sense. And again, it is wonderful. We'll link everything in the description. I hope everybody checks it out. It is incredible. Just a very splendid surprise of great experimental music for early in 2022. And it's awesome that you continue to challenge yourself and do electronic music still and do all these other side projects and super groups, both you and Max. It's just a thrill to find, to learn about these things and have them surprised. It's great to still be surprised. I know there's a lot of people who think there's no great new music out there, but I disagree. I think you just have to look hard and be selective about what you choose to hear. Of course, Igor, man, it's
I
always a
think you're
pleasure.
lazy, man.
Maybe the availability of too much digital music is making
Yeah,
people lazy.
yeah, but when I hear people saying like, "Oh, there's nothing cool at the moment," I still listen to my whatever Led Zeppelin record. I'm like, you're just being lazy, man. Of course, Led Zeppelin is amazing. Sabbath, all those guys, they still crush when you hear the records. Yes, but there's a lot of new blood out there. There's a lot of amazing musicians and artists. So yeah, I think Max is it's a big proof of that. He's always got his finger on pulse of underground music. He's a big inspiration for me because I also try to stay researching for good music, researching for new ideas, and of course, keeping an open mind for new upcoming acts. For me, it's very important. And I think me and him as brothers, we feed off of those influences a lot.
Without music, life would be a mistake. Igor Cavalera, it has been so great to see you and talk to you again. Continue to be safe, continue to be well. Good luck in your travels, and we're really looking forward to this tour. Return Beneath the Rise is coming soon with Max, and we'll be there. We'll see you soon.
All right, my brother. Thank you. Thanks for having me.